A lot has happened in the NBA over the last 48 hours, 2 days. That is 48 hours. A lot has happened, and it's all opportunity for the Orlando Magic today on Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is May 14th, 2025. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com, credentialed member of the media since 2012-ish, 2011-ish, somewhere in there. You can, of course, follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD and on Blue Sky at PhilipRR. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, we're done talking with Keith Smith. Love you, Keith, but we're done. 3 episodes is enough. We're going to dive back into the news around the league, the lottery results, and the big injury that has rocked the Eastern Conference. Why the door is wide open for the Orlando Magic. We're going to get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. We truly appreciate you making us your first listen of the day. And if you're part of our everyday crew, thank you for making Locked On Magic such an important part of your day, even during the offseason. If we're not your first listen, we appreciate you too. Make us your first listen. We're cool. We're here every day. And certainly 5 days a week now until the end of July. You can all find us on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I've been sitting on a lot of news. I've been a bad journalist, been a bad reporter. A lot has happened. And we are going to get to all the things that I missed over the last 3 days as I was burning through the interview with Keith Smith. We're going to get to the Dallas Mavericks winning the lottery. We're going to get to Giannis Antetokounmpo not quite requesting a trade, but it sure feels like he is ready to get moved from the Milwaukee Bucks. We're going to get to all that and how it affects the Orlando Magic. But it all goes under one umbrella, and it all goes under one big piece of the puzzle. And it was a big part of the conversation that I had with Keith over the last few days. How close are the Magic to contention? How close are the Magic to being a team that can do what the Indiana Pacers did tonight and reach the Eastern Conference Finals? Some teams are bad matchups for each other. The Magic are a bad matchup for the Pacers. I don't think the Pacers want to see the Magic in the playoffs anytime soon, but maybe they do because the Pacers are a different team in the playoffs. It feels like the Eastern Conference is as wide open as it has ever been. It feels like in these playoffs especially, anything can happen. The Cleveland Cavaliers, the class of the league, the best team in the Eastern Conference, maybe even the best team in the league for the entire season to this point, out in 5 games. Not healthy, but out in 5 games. The Boston Celtics, your defending champions, the team that got taken completely out of their game against the Orlando Magic, but still won the series in 5. They're blowing 20-point leads left and right. They're down 3-1 in their series, and they're facing a major change, a major, major injury, which we're going to get into here in a second. The Magic obviously have work to do. I'm not going to sit here and say the Magic are ready to go win a title tomorrow, are ready to go win in the Eastern Conference tomorrow. Very, very clearly, even granting for the injuries, and again, this is a big part of what we talked about over the last 3 days, the Magic aren't ready to compete. And the goal for this summer, the goal for this offseason is to build a team that can compete every night against the best teams in the league. A team, because the Magic, for whatever you want to say about him, Paolo Banchero is built for the playoffs. The Magic's defense is built to be successful in the playoffs. Jamal Mosley does a good job prepping his team for the playoffs. We can debate rotations. We can debate offense. The Magic have outperformed expectation in their last 2 playoff series. I don't think that's arguable. But the Magic are missing any semblance of an offense that can give themselves a chance in these series. And what has become clearer throughout these playoffs, not just in the Eastern Conference, by the way, in the West as well, if you can compete, if you can give yourself a chance night in and night out, you can win 4 games and win a series. The Magic are good enough to do that. Now, doing that against the Cavs last year's Cavs, which were very flawed, very different team, and this year's Celtics was obviously a completely different story. Obviously, the Celtics outclassed the Magic and looked like title contenders. But guess what? The contours of the 2026 season are already taking place. We're already beginning to see what next year's going to be like, even while we are trying to get through these playoffs. The Indiana Pacers are very good. I don't want to take anything away from them. Go listen to our friend Tony East on Locked On Pacers. The Pacers don't scare anybody. The New York Knicks are obviously a fantastic team. The Knicks don't scare anybody. Not the way that Cavs offense or that Celtics offense does. And now we are getting ready to enter an offseason where all of this, all of the established powers, everything we thought we knew is about to get turned on its head. The big news obviously came out Tuesday. Jayson Tatum ruptured his Achilles in Game 4 against the Knicks. And look, it feels distasteful to talk about things this way. I hope Jayson Tatum has a speedy recovery. It's bad for the league that he is out. It's bad for the league that he's out for the rest of these playoffs. It's bad for the league that he is going to miss almost certainly all of next season. It's bad. But guess what? This is a zero-sum game. Your misfortune is our opportunity. There can only be one winner. There can only be one winner. There can only be one Eastern Conference champion. And you can't apologize for taking advantage of opportunities when they come. The Celtics without Jayson Tatum are going to take a step back. The Celtics were likely taking a step back, and again, a step back for them is relative, but the Celtics were going to come back to the pack anyway because of their second apron issues. The Cleveland Cavaliers now, after losing in the second round once again, despite the season they had, how do they adjust? What do they do to change that team? Can they, considering they are also a second apron team? And of course, the other big story, which again, we'll get to a little bit toward the end of the show as well, Giannis Antetokounmpo reportedly telling the Bucks that he is open to leaving Milwaukee, open to a future outside of Milwaukee. Probably never going to ask for a trade, but this is his version of asking for a trade. It feels like Giannis is on the market, and Damian Lillard, who also tore his Achilles, probably out for all of next season. And again, his career is in jeopardy. Again, we're not dancing on anybody's graves. We're not celebrating this. I love Dame to death. I love Tatum to death. They are the class of this league. They are good people as far as we all know. It's bad for the league that they're out. But this is opportunity. And very, very clearly, the doors in the Eastern Conference are wide open. Again, I'm not here to downplay the Pacers. They've been awesome the last 2 postseasons. They've been awesome the last 2 playoffs. They've earned everything they've gotten. The Magic ain't afraid of them. You're telling me the Magic, when healthy, aren't as good as the Indiana Pacers in the regular season? Maybe not in the playoffs because of the offensive issues. But the way the Magic play defense, they have been a thorn in the Pacers' side forever. So you're telling me I'm looking at my standings board with my brand new logo magnets, all my updated logo magnets, and you're telling me the Magic can't be where the Pacers are next year with the right moves this offseason? I firmly believe so. I firmly believe Paolo, Banchero, and Franz Wagner might be the best duo in the Eastern Conference. Go ahead. With Jayson Tatum out next year, no Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Outside of Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns, which pair of players are you taking in the Eastern Conference over Paolo and Franz? The Magic have an opportunity here. The door is wide freaking open. And so this is not a time, as we've mentioned so many times, this is not a time to be careful. This is not a time, this is not a time to sit back and say, we got this. This is a time to truly and firmly address the needs of this roster. This is a time to put together a team that can compete at the highest levels in this conference, because the conference is coming back to you. What you're trying to reach for, where you're trying to go, ain't as far as it used to be. We're not competing with the Celtics juggernaut anymore. The Celtics are not going to be the same next year. The Cavs might still be a juggernaut, but the Magic, again, 40-point loss excused, which I don't know if we can, but the Magic beat the Cavs late in the season too. Again, no Mobley in that game. There's a lot going on there, but an Orlando team that's a little bit better offensively, a little bit more consistent offensively, and healthy. I'm sorry, they took that Cavs team to 7 games. They were up 17 in the first half. The Magic aren't far, and the Magic aren't just merely not far from contention. They're not far from making a finals run next season if they do the right things, if they make the right moves this summer. The door is indeed wide open in the Eastern Conference. And it's on Jeff Weltman and the Magic staff and the Magic players who are here to make sure they make the most of it, because no one else is going to sit around. Yeah, Boston's probably going to come back to the pack. Cleveland's going to do something. This will not stand for Cleveland. I'd be willing to put money on Indiana doing something to say like, oh, we've been to the conference finals twice. Let's take a big swing. Let's go all in. It's there for us too. Detroit will do something. They're not going anywhere. I think they'll experience some of the same issues Orlando had last year, but they'll be more aggressive. They'll learn from what the Magic didn't do. Miami is always lurking. The Magic can't fall behind their opponents. They cannot fall behind. They have to stay ahead. They have to get ahead. But that opportunity is right there. And draft night is going to be the night to do it. Reaction to the crazy lottery win and what's at stake on draft night. We will talk about that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at Wayfair. The days are getting longer. The weather is warming up. It's already ridiculously hot here in Florida, and people are spending more time outside, which means it's the perfect time to refresh your outdoor space. Whether you're working with a big backyard or a small balcony, Wayfair has everything you need to make it feel more like you. Wayfair's massive selection of outdoor essentials makes it easy to transform any space into your ideal summer setup. From comfy conversation sets to sleek dining tables and outdoor decor, they've got it all, and at prices that fit your budget. Look, it's summertime here in Florida. We all want to get outside for as much as we can. I've got a little balcony. It probably needs some sprucing up. It probably needs to be an engaging space that I actually want to use. Wayfair has everything that I need to make my outdoor space my own. They have a great mix of styles, making it super easy to find pieces that match my vibe without spending a fortune, and they'll probably match your vibe too. The delivery is free and hassle-free, even for the big stuff. Whether you're entertaining guests or just relaxing solo, shop Wayfair to help you unwind. Shop a huge selection of outdoor furniture online this summer. Get outside with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That's Wayfair, Wayfair.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. So that door for the Orlando Magic is wide open. And look, if you listen to the show, you know I don't get into histrionics. I don't like to oversell things. I don't like to overpromise things. I'm a realist. I'm a journalist at the end of the day. I still want to be neutral. I still want to take things as they come. But even I can see the opportunity ahead. Even I can see that next year in the Eastern Conference is going to be wild. I'll go ahead and say it. This summer is going to be wild. The results we're seeing in the playoffs, the teams that are losing, how they're losing, is going to lead to a dramatic offseason. We already know that Kevin Durant's probably getting moved. Giannis Antetokounmpo seems to be leaning more toward getting moved every day. The Celtics now are going to have to figure out what to do with their season, and they could be willing to kind of sacrifice a season. And then you get what happened Monday night. The Dallas Mavericks, with a 1.8% chance to win the NBA draft lottery, defy the odds, make the tallest climb of any team in history since the 93 Magic, going up 10 spots to get the number 1 pick. The Spurs get number 2. Philadelphia gets number 3. And now the entire draft feels in play. It's going to be a busy draft night. Let's just put it that way. Draft night is not going to be for the faint of heart. Now, before all this craziness happened, before the lottery order got set, I would tell you draft night is probably the most important night of the Magic's offseason, because that's when teams deal. They're talking to each other. They're deciding what they're going to do. This is when teams deal. This is when they make their decisions. This is when they make things happen. They set themselves up for their summer, sure, but trades don't typically happen unless it's like some holdout guy that occurs in August. Trades don't typically happen that late in the season. Draft night's going to be the night where the Magic make all their action. And again, this is not a time to sit on your hands. I'll explain why the all-in trades aren't the way coming up here in a minute, but the Magic have to be aggressive. They have to be assertive, and draft night's going to be the night they got to do it. Unlike previous years where the Magic seem content to let the draft come to them, whether they're chasing a prospect or whether they're chasing a player, and it's more likely a player, the Magic got to go get their guy. This is the time to be aggressive. This is the time to be assertive. This is the time that you have to go make the team you want to be. Whatever target Jeff Weltman has, draft night's when the trade happens. That's when they make the swap, as Jeff Weltman put it. Now, there wouldn't be this much urgency. There wouldn't be this much need to make these discussions and make these points if Jeff Weltman didn't lay down the gauntlet at exit interviews. He told us they're making win-now moves. He told us they're looking through things through a win-now lens. He told us that swapping contracts and swapping players is probably the next phase of this rebuild. He told us this is what they're going to do. I'm just merely holding him accountable to it and saying, okay, this is the day you do it. The Magic's draft history hasn't been super clean with Jeff Weltman. He's missed on some pretty big picks. Anthony Black is on the line here. Probably the biggest player, probably the biggest swing player on the Magic's cap sheet, determining whether they're going to be able to make that big move or not. If the Magic are ready to move on, or they got to find the player perhaps that they're willing to move Anthony Black to make the changes they need to make and propel this team forward. But again, it all comes to a head on draft night. Now, why is this the case? Well, teams are lazy. They like deadlines. The Magic have 2 draft picks in the first round. They have 4 total in this draft. It's just kind of when you do it. Deadlines create tension, create pressure, create decisions. And draft night is a deadline. Draft night is the night when the Magic will decide, okay, we're going for this guy. Or we have the pick that this team wants. We're going to go for it. Draft night is when that all happens. And so this is the big night. Look, we're going to get into some draft prospects. We're going to talk about the draft. We still have to prepare for the draft as if the Magic are taking all of those players. But the Magic are drafting 16th and 25th. 16 and 25. There's an opportunity for them to move up, maybe into that like 11-10 range to go get like Kasper Siakashonis, a great shooter from Illinois. There's opportunity for them to trade one of those picks and keep the other one. I think they're more likely to keep the Denver pick, go after Walter Clayton, go after Nick Clifford, go after Liam McNeely. There are a lot of options. There are a lot of options on the table. But ultimately, the Magic have to be decisive on draft night because their books change and what they're able to do changes if they can't complete a trade on draft night. And by complete a trade, I mean in the league announced on draft night. Because once the books flip to 2026, Orlando is a first apron team unless they make some serious cuts. And again, those cuts are Corey Joseph, Gary Harris. We talked a lot about this over the last 3 days. The Magic have to know their plan in the next 6 weeks. We got 6 weeks until all the action happens. And so draft night's going to be busy. Again, not because the Magic are drafting players. Draft night is when they're going to do everything. And they got to get it right. Like I said, that opportunity is right there. I'm not joking. Like, guys, I am not joking. The Magic could be in the Eastern Conference Finals next year. Like, they are, with even small improvements and good health, they are good enough to get out of this Eastern Conference. They're good enough to beat the Boston Celtics without Jayson Tatum. They're good enough to beat the New York Knicks. I think it'll be a different battle against the Knicks. The Knicks were a really tough matchup for them this year. They're good enough to beat the Knicks. They can bother the Knicks. They're good enough to beat the Cavs. Probably not as good, but they're certainly good enough in my mind to beat the Pacers. I think they're good enough to beat the Pistons. I think they're certainly good enough to beat the Bucks, even if Giannis stays. And even if Miami does something big, they're good enough to beat the Heat. A healthy Magic team with adding the kind of shooter that we're expecting them to add, whether it's Anthony Simons or Kobe White or even Austin Reeves, that Magic team is good enough to make the Eastern Conference Finals. And I'm not here setting the expectation that that's what they must do next season. But man, does it feel that window's open. And so if the Magic come away at the end of draft night and we don't have a sense of what they're going to do, that's a problem. Now, look, this draft is topsy-turvy. With Dallas at the top, Dallas has already committed they're going to take Cooper Flag. San Antonio could very easily flip their second pick, and I believe they have the another first-round pick somewhere. I don't have it on my board. Oh, no, there it is. The 14th pick. They could flip 2 and 14 to construct their Giannis deal. Like, San Antonio, I think, is the favorite to get Giannis at this point. Because, again, same thing with them. They got Victor. They got De'Aaron Fox. They made the big moves. It's their time to try and push forward. Draft night, we're going to know which direction this franchise is going. Having said all that, having said the Magic need to be aggressive, the Magic aren't all in yet. What the Magic have to be careful about, especially with all the rumors going around, we're going to get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at Car Gurus. Shopping for cars should be exciting, not exhausting. But between the confusing prices and hidden fees, it can feel overwhelming. That's why you should be using Car Gurus. They help you cut through the noise and show you the best deals with full confidence. With more than 4 million listings, Car Gurus has more new and used cars than any other major online marketplace in the US. They verify dealers, provide real price analysis, and give you the tools and data you need to make the right choice without second guessing yourself. Going into the dealership to buy a car is always intimidating. When people think of sleazy salesmen, they think of car salesmen. Because they're always trying to get you that extra bell or whistle. They're always trying to get you into that car. And it's such a big purchase. You are under a lot of pressure, and cars, especially here in Orlando, are so important to getting around. So you need to come in empowered with the knowledge that you're getting a good deal and that you can negotiate on a level playing field. Car Gurus makes it easy to compare vehicles side by side with unbiased deal ratings. They have price drop alerts so you know exactly when the perfect car is available for your budget. Plus, the in-depth vehicle details give you peace of mind before stepping onto any lot. It's no wonder SimilarWeb estimated traffic data shows Car Gurus is the #1 most visited car shopping site. Buy or sell your next car today with Car Gurus at cargurus.com. Go to cargurus.com to make sure your big deal is the best deal. That's Car Gurus, CARGURUS.com. cargurus.com. So like I said, the Magic must be aggressive. They have to be aggressive. No choice about that. They've got, like, again, that window is wide open right now. And look, we're not in it just to make the Eastern Conference Finals in 2026. This is about building a team that's going to go to the Eastern Conference Finals in 2026, go back there and go to the finals in 2027, win a championship in 2028. Like, the Magic are trying to build like what the Celtics have, where they're sustainably in the final, in the Eastern Conference Finals, in the second round, in the finals for however long it's going to be. And I think that's the larger point that people are forgetting. Now, again, look, 2026 is a huge opportunity to outperform what you might normally be able to do because of how open the East feels. This is a chance, like, the throne is open. The Celtics are vacating the throne. Nobody's scared of the Pacers. Again, no offense to Indiana. No one's really that scared of the Knicks. Again, no offense to New York. They're earning it. You got to earn the throne. They're going to earn it. That throne feels wide open. It does not feel like there is a perennial team on the throne right now in the Eastern Conference. Someone's got to claim it. Why can't it be the Magic? Now, some of you might say, well, that's exactly why the Magic should chase after Giannis Antetokounmpo. That ensures they get that throne. That ensures that they are title contenders. That might be why you're saying that's why the Magic should go get Trae Young. That ensures they are a title contender, gives them the shooter and the playmaker that they so desperately need. And maybe that is a reason. Maybe I need to reassess a Trae Young deal, or why the Magic should or should not go after Trae Young, because maybe this is the window to get to the finals and the Magic should push all their chips in. I don't, honestly, like, now that I'm thinking about it, that does not sound like as crazy of an argument as it did 48 hours ago. Because look, you can tell by the rundown over there. I don't think the Magic should chase after a star. I don't think the Magic need to add to the marquee. Paolo and Franz are your guys. They need to add the role players who make them better. That's the next step in this process. And as much as the Magic are promising to be aggressive, I still think, hey, that's not how Jeff operates. Jeff Weltman is still trying to build his sustainable championship level team. And ultimately, that centers on Paolo and Franz and how good they get. That centers on Jalen Suggs being healthy. Those are your three. That is your big three. That is your trio that you're building around. To go get a Giannis, yes, you can do it without giving up Jalen Suggs. It's not impossible. You can throw in every pick that you have. You can throw in, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Jonathan Isaac. You could throw Anthony Black. You could throw in your young prospects. But then you become the Phoenix Suns. Then you become a team that is second apron. You're capped out completely. You don't have a bench or supporting cast to make those players better. You're relying on their individual brilliance, and none of them are reliable shooters. You don't have the shooting to make it work. And you're paying all that apron tax, and you're restricted in your movement and what you can do and how you can add players. In this cap environment, it's not worth it. Under this new CBA, it's going to be really hard to sustain three players at $30+ million for very, very long, or at least at $35+ million, because Franz will be 35, Jalen will be 33, Paolo's going to come in at 45, 46, 47 in the first year of his deal. Franz will be over 40 at that point. It's going to be a mess even as the cap continues to rise. Jeff Weltman has made it clear the Magic are not going to blow everything on one shot. They're going to keep some assets in reserve to try and make that next move. It's about the chess piece and the chessboard the next time down. And so, like, Giannis is that example. Trae Young is also a $39, $40 million player. That's going to cost you at least Jalen Suggs. Now, do the Magic are the Hawks going to take Jalen Suggs? No, they're going to want Franz Wagner. They're going to want Paolo Banchero for Trae Young, or they're going to want every pick you have and every prospect you have. And the Magic aren't going to be willing to do that. They shouldn't be willing to do that, because this is still, especially with your top two guys at 22 and 23 years old and just, entering those big contracts, the Magic have clearly decided we're building around these two players. Right or wrong, and maybe it is wrong. Maybe the Magic will have to entertain Franz Wagner trades. We all suspect that Jalen Suggs is going to go the way of Marcus Smart, where they're going to ride him and ride his intensity and ride his heart until they're like, okay, it's time to move him. It's time to go get that third guy that puts us over the top, gets us out of the Eastern Conference Finals and into the finals like the Celtics did with Marcus Smart. We can all see these chess moves coming down the board. Accelerating them before the team is ready, accelerating them when the cap situation is not amenable to it, accelerating them when you don't have the supporting cast or the assets to sustain the cost. That's when you make mistakes. That's when you get yourself in trouble. That's when you become the Phoenix Suns. And that's the lesson. Nobody wants to be the Phoenix Suns. Now, some of that is Bradley Beal isn't the star that he used to be, and his contract is still paying him like a superstar. The Magic are in on this season. Let me make this very, very clear. Orlando is going to be aggressive, And maybe that aggressiveness just gets them Anthony Simons, who's, again, $28 million, not cheap by any stretch. Maybe it doesn't get them that all-star level guard, wing or guard. Again, I think, honestly, like, as much as we're talking about Simons and Reeves and Sexton and White and all these guys that we seem to know, knowing how the Magic operate, they're going to do the thing that we're not even thinking of right now, that we're either going to think is brilliant or stupid. That's kind of how these things go. The Magic have one big move in them. Don't get me wrong. I think they're shopping Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. I think they're very open to talking Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. I think Jonathan Isaac and his $25 million salary that turns into $15 million is super valuable. You know, there's going to be a team out there that believes, hey, Isaac can anchor our defense. We can still get something out of Isaac. And we'll give up and we'll save some money in the process. Let's do it. I still think those players have tremendous value. Goga Bitadze's $9 million contract before July 1st. Again, this is why I think trading on draft night is super important. Goga Bitadze's $9 million contract will net the Magic something of value. There are things on the table. Even Wendell Carter, like I was listening to Locked On Blazers from the aftermath of the initial Simons rumor from Mark Stein and Jake Fisher, and they're talking Wendell Carter. Wendell Carter is more value around this league than I think Magic fans give him credit for. Now, again, everyone's getting squeezed. It's not going to be everything that we want, but it's all there. The Magic have the tools to be aggressive, and they should be. But that doesn't mean they're adding to the marquee. That doesn't mean they need to be a second apron team. That doesn't mean they're all in on winning a championship next season. Next season is a window to outperform. Next season is a window to establish the base that will make this team a championship team. That's what's on the line. The Magic, though, are good enough to be one of the best teams in the East with very minimal changes, in my opinion. I think they can get there. The right point guard, the right shooter, health. I think they can get there. What they don't need to do is spend everything they own, spend everything they have, and be caught in the situation the Bucks are in now. Be caught in the situation that the Suns are in now, where if one thing goes wrong, the whole thing falls apart. And then you're stuck in that 4-5 ringer. You're stuck in that play-in ringer, and you're not able to get yourself out. You're not able to adjust again. The Magic need to keep their flexibility, need to keep their nimbleness to shift again for the next phase. Because we're only at stage 2. Like, this is like the end of stage 1, the end of the rebuilding phase. We're an established playoff team now. Next comes stage 2. Building a team that can win consistently in the playoffs and build into a championship team that has more of the bones are set. We need the muscles of a championship team before we complete the picture. That's a very strange analogy, but that's what we got. That's what this offseason is about. And so the Magic shouldn't be all in on a big star. That might be the next stage. This stage is about adding the role players that will make this team better. A lot happened over the last few days, but it's going to make for a very, very, very exciting offseason. But that's good, dude, for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. You can, of course, find me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. Find me on Blue Sky at PhilipRR. You can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all from links on podcast to your podcast-enabled listening device. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, you can also find us on YouTube. You can also find us on YouTube. Just search for Locked On Magic. We are nearing 4,000 subscribers on YouTube, so if you have not subscribed there yet, please do so. It'd be a nice feather in my cap, and I have a lot of ball caps, as you can tell, and I like putting feathers in them. So go ahead and do that. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, including an early look at draft prospects that the Magic are mocked to pick, you can find that at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Follow us on Twitter at OMagicDaily. And for even more Orlando Magic content, as I continue my season recap, you can find that on my Patreon page at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. As always, thank you for your support. We want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out Locked On NBA Game Night. Every game, every night until an NBA champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NBA Game Night on Locked On NBA on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Should be a good show after the games tonight. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. On tomorrow's episode of Locked On Magic, we'll start diving into what the Magic need to get out of the draft from a prospect perspective, not from the trade perspective. Done a lot of that. Still got to act like we're taking 2 picks here. So we're going to go start diving into prospects. We'll do that tomorrow. Until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.